what I'll do is I'll welcome you up to the Wednesday evening meeting and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. And the first speaker I have is from Toronto, but he spoke in Toronto, the immediate past chair of the Rotary Foundation. So I think he should be quite an interesting speaker. We'll make sure we mute ourselves.
Good morning, my fellow Rotarians, members of the family of Rotary, and guests. Toronto has been a fantastic host city for this convention. Don't you agree? No doubt. But the city also holds a special place in Rotary history because it has been a center for milestones in global health. Let me take you back to the 1950s, to scientific discoveries which led to the most ambitious project in the Rotary Foundation's history, polio eradication. As we all know, Dr. Jonas Salk was the first to develop an effective vaccine against polio. But Dr. Salk had a problem. He did not know how to mass produce this vaccine for medical trials or large-scale distribution. But here in Toronto, a Canadian scientist, Dr. Leon Farrell, was working on a method to produce the vaccine in large quantities. Now, Dr. Farrell was already a trailblazer in many ways. In 1933, at the age of 29, she obtained a PhD degree in biochemistry at the University of Toronto, becoming one of a small group of women in her generation to earn a doctorate in sciences. Indeed. She had pioneered a new method of vaccine production for other diseases by gently rocking cell cultures to stimulate growth. She adapted this method for the production of poliovirus, making it possible for Dr. Salk to have a volume of vaccine he needed to conduct the largest medical experiment in history. During 1954-55, Salk's field trials reached 1.8 million children in the United States, Canada, and Finland, and confirmed the safety of this vaccine. Although Dr. Farrell led the team of researchers which produced that vital vaccine against polio, she was an unsung hero for so many years, much like so many others in our effort. While Jonas Salk appeared on the cover of Time magazine, Dr. Farrell faded into relative obscurity. There are hundreds, maybe thousands more of unsung heroes in our fight against polio. But today we remember those unsung heroes, and we hope to honor their memory. Now, we can do this in two ways. First, we can honor their legacy through finishing what we promised by delivering a polio-free world. And amen. For sure. And second, we can build Rotary's future by positioning ourselves to be ready for a post-polio era, following the world being certified polio-free. When that time arrives, we Rotarians will have almost unlimited opportunities to further change the world for good. A decade ago, Bill Gates Sr. told us, when it comes time to decide what will follow polio, you Rotarians need to think big. Anything less would be a waste of Rotary's potential. This is why I believe this is an amazing time to be a Rotarian. You see, the finish line for polio is within sight. Only 11 cases of polio have been reported at virtually the halfway point in this year. Amen. Go for it. This is the lowest in history. And when that finish line is crossed, before the world can be certified polio-free, we will need 36 consecutive months with no polio virus in a person or in the environment. In the past year, Rotary and global leaders pledged US $1.5 billion to end polio. This total includes Rotary's pledge of $450 million. Now today I can tell you that through our End Polio Now Countdown to History campaign, Rotarians are very near to achieving this year's $50 million goal. Hearing where we stood on fundraising, Mrs. Birla from Mumbai, India confirmed another gift of $1 million from her Birla group, and this brings her total giving to Polio Plus to over $11 million. Wow. And you know why we are so fortunate to have Mrs. Birla as a donor is because she comes from a country that has been certified polio-free for over 5 years. And because of the great work that you have been doing in meeting our $50 million challenge goal this year, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has now provided the 2-for-1 match for this year, which has resulted in a $100 million contribution to the Rotary Foundation. That is great. But as we've heard all morning long in the stories, the dramatic stories we've been hearing and listening to with awe, as we know, eradicating polio is far more than fundraising. Last October, our members organized a 3,671 global World Polio Day events, twice as many as the year before. And for over 100 years, Rotarians through our foundation have pioneered new ways to make a difference. Now, any of you in this audience could be the next pioneer. It starts with one idea, and you do not need to limit yourself to the groundbreaking Polio Plus program to find inspiration. If we look back at almost any decade during the first century, we can find innovations which adapted our service to a rapidly changing world. Think of the first institutes of international understanding, which Rotarians launched in the 1930s to help illuminate global issues. In the 1940s, we launched our first program of scholarships for graduate study. And in fact, we even had a seat at the table at the 1945 San Francisco conference when the United Nations was chartered. In the 1960s, we launched our first program to pair Rotary clubs and districts from different countries all around the world. In the 2000s, the Rotary Peace Centers program began equipping the best students from the continents all over the world for careers in peace and conflict resolution. And today, this program has over 1,162 graduates. I know it. And we're adding 100 new Rotary Peace Fellows every year, and we have just made a decision on the trustees to add 4 more new peace centers over the next decade. And Rotarians have devised new ways to fight disease. And in some areas of the world, public health strategies will be forever changed thanks to the global partnership model and tactics Rotary helped to create and refine for polio. In addition, Rotarians have created better education opportunities as well as pathways to economic empowerment. And today we are also serving those deprived of the basics that sustain life: clean water, good hygiene, modern sanitation. Now, as we have heard not only this morning but over the last several days, all of these are within our 6 areas of focus. These 6 areas are the building blocks for peace. Rotary's commitment to these 6 areas of focus, plus our emphasis in building peace, is the central reason our Rotary Foundation has been able to raise and invest more than $4.4 billion in programs over the past century. Last year, when we celebrated the Rotary Foundation centennial anniversary, we had a challenging, comprehensive goal worldwide of $300 million. Well, the total raised was just over $304 million. This was possible only because of you and other Rotarians and clubs worldwide. Even though some thought we might encounter a serious letdown in fundraising following the successes of our centennial year, our foundation's trustees were united behind the idea that 2017 would be the first year of the Rotary Foundation's 2nd century. Further, they believed that you Rotarians would respond to the challenge, because the needs around the world are more pressing now than ever. We established an ambitious, comprehensive fundraising goal to raise $360 million this year. The top 2 funding objectives were polio and the annual fund. Polio, of course, our #1 corporate priority, and it had a goal of $150 million for this year. And the annual fund, which makes possible many of our life-changing programs, had a goal of $135 million. Thanks to your generosity and that of Rotarians around the world, I'm excited to announce, and I'm glad you're being seated right now, that together we have raised this year a new 1-year all-time record for our foundation, and we're still counting, $372,600,000. Can you believe that? You bet. Our foundation's successes in fundraising allows more Rotary clubs the opportunity to implement bigger, better, and more sustainable projects through global grants. Over 85% of our districts worldwide are participating in global grants. Last year we had about 1,200 global grant applications that were approved, and we're a little bit ahead of that this year, along with an additional, this year, 487 district grants involving 168 countries. Another major priority of our foundation is building the Rotary Foundation Endowment 2025 by 2025. We're aiming high to build an endowment with $2.025 billion by the year 2025. When our 2025 by 2025 endowment goal has been fully funded, the Rotary Foundation reasonably can anticipate, in today's dollars, approximately $100 million each and every year from investment earnings. Think of that. Now, why is this important? Because these funds will help ensure that future Rotarians, many of whom we have here today who will be around for many decades to come, you will have the resources to design and implement projects which will make a difference. The achievements I just highlighted have been accomplished through teamwork and partnership of the 3 parts that comprise Rotary: Rotary clubs, Rotary International, and the Rotary Foundation. Working together, these three parts are what make it possible for Rotary to make a difference. Now, as I close, let me tell you about the kind of difference that you are helping make happen through our Rotary Foundation. We saw evidence of this earlier in the earlier presentations. Outstanding. But I shall share a story because as we talk about what happens through our foundation, we frequently talk about numbers of people and dollars that are so large it's beyond our ability to actually get our minds around it. Most importantly, it's impossible to personalize or humanize the impact that we have and tell the fact about the impact of how Rotarians are making a difference. When I was district governor, I led a team of Rotarians who traveled to India to provide polio survivors with corrective surgeries. The program was a great success. More than 750 children were given a chance to have long, productive lives. While I was in one village, I met a 9-year-old boy named Parikh, a polio survivor who was on his way for corrective surgery. Some of the surgeries are a relatively short 20 to 30-minute procedure on certain tendons, followed by 45 or 60 days of recovery and rehabilitation. As I stood near a doorway to the wooden building used for the surgeries, I watched as Parikh navigated a dirt path on his hands and knees. Soon I saw his mother and father coming my way as well. But it was Parikh who reached me first. Now, I wasn't dressed like a doctor. He must have known that I was part of this outside group that had come to help. Because when he had crawled all the way over to me, he did something that utterly astonished me. He bent his head down and kissed the top of my shoe. For me, time virtually stopped. All I could feel were chills going up and down my spine. And then his mother came over and did the same. And next, Parikh's father approached, and he also knelt down and kissed the top of my shoe. I was speechless. I just stood there. And finally, a local Rotarian came over and whispered in my ear. He said, "This is their way of saying thank you for changing their sons and their lives forever and for giving him back his life." As I have looked back on this experience, I have often wondered, whatever happened to Parikh? Well, thanks to the assistance of one of the local Rotarian physicians who participated in that corrective surgery camp 21 years ago, we are able to share with you a brief video with a special message from a young man we believe is Parikh, as well as two others who were beneficiaries of those surgeries. But Parikh's voice speaks the loudest, in my opinion, because of the personal story that I have just shared with you.
In India, mass immunizations began in 1995. Rotarians were enthusiastic in creating awareness, immunizing children, mobilizing communities for polio immunizations. India still had hundreds of polio-affected children with various deformities of hands and feet, which needed tedious and complicated surgeries.
In the year 97, a team of Rotarians led by then District Governor Paul Netzel visited India, and the first such polio corrective surgery camp was held. Polio is a disease which paralyzes the child, which leads to the deformities of the hands, legs and back. These camps have proved to be a great transition from disability and despair to dignity and development of the child.
We visited patients operated 21 years ago.
झाला होता त्यावेळेला माझा मी काय चालू शकत नव्हतं. मला दुसरा माणूस उचलून नेईल त्यावेळेला मी पुढे जाऊ शकतो. तोपर्यंत मी एक जागेवर बसून माझा काय आहे ते एक जागेवर बसणार. त्यावेळेला दुसरा कोणी येईल घेऊन जाईल मला त्यावेळेला दुसरा काय बघायला भेटणार. रोटरी म्हणजे आम्हाला हॉस्पिटलमधून नेऊन ते रोटरीबद्दल आमचं ऑपरेशन फ्रीमध्ये करून दिलं. त्याच्या सहाय्याने माझा सर्व काय आली मी माझे हातपाय म्हणजे पायानं चालू शकतो मी आणि कामधंदा करू शकतो. नंतर मी 5 वर्षापूर्वी रिक्षा घेतली. रिक्षा घेऊन मी रिक्षा सर्व चालवतो आणि सर्व काय रिक्षाचा मेंटेनन्स काय असेल ते सर्व मी मेकॅनिक काम पण करतो. आणि आई वडील व माझ्या पत्नी मुलीचा सर्वांचा मी सांभाळ करू शकतो.
माझं नाव विजय बाबू कोळी. मी पदवीधर आहे. माझ्या उजव्या पायाला पोलिओ असल्यामुळे माझ्या जीवनात काही रस नव्हता आणि कुठे मी फिरू शकत नव्हतो. शिक्षण घेतलं होतं पण गेल्यामुळे नोकरी मिळत नव्हती. डॉक्टर दीपक पुरोहित यांच्याशी भेट झाल्यामुळे पोलिओचं करेक्टिव्ह ऑपरेशन करून काही अंशी सुधारणा करून तुम्हाला चालता येईल म्हणे, फिरता येईल. रोटरी क्लब यांच्या सौजन्याने पोलिओ करेक्टिव्ह ऑपरेशन कॅम्प केला. त्या कॅम्पमध्ये माझं ऑपरेशन झालं. त्याच्यानंतर मला जॉब मिळाला आणि जॉबनंतर मी आता पूर्ण वेळ म्हणजे पूर्ण कुटुंबाचं पालनपोषण करतो. माझ्या 2 मुलींची लग्न करून मी आता माझ्या जीवनात सुखी आहे. याचं सर्व श्रेय डॉक्टर दीपक पुरोहित साहेब आणि रोटरी क्लब या संस्थेला देण्यात.
2 वर्षाची असताना पोलिओ झाला. मग मला चालता येत नव्हतं. रोटरी क्लबतर्फे माझे ऑपरेशन झाले. आता मी कॅलिपर लावून चालू शकते आणि जॉबही करते.
We have helped more than 1,500 such children. It is really heartening to see the effects of these camps over the years. Our small deeds in the past have led to the sea change in the lives of these children, thanks to Rotary.
This is just one story about our Rotary Foundation. Thank you for your contributions, both financially and in service. And thank you for what you will do in the future. And the next time you think about the level of your gift to our foundation, please think of the Periques of the world. Thank you very much.
Well, Polio Plus was my favorite program right from the start as a Rotarian. I adopted it and I promoted it, and I'm still promoting it. I think over the years, just in St. Thomas East, we probably raised about $2,000 or $3,000 over the years. I would do things like at the end of the meeting, I would say, okay, today fines and happy dollars all go to Polio Plus. Come on, get it up.
Yes, exactly.
It would double what we did last week, you know?
Yeah, oh good. Because honestly, it's so amazing that we are so close, you know, it's just absolutely so close. Well, it seems impossible to me that India has been polio free for 5 years. That just seemed like yesterday. But
I was an early taker of Salk vaccine as soon as it came out. The polio had, and the polio had scared, completely taken over my New Jersey suburban, town for the entire year. They closed down all the community pools. They stopped all the children's programs during the summer. Everybody was scared to death of it.
oh yeah.
And then the Salk vaccine came out, and like a wave, it went through the town. But I have childhood friends who died young because of polio.
Oh yeah. A devastating disease, and when you see the pictures of those victims, my goodness, it's you can't imagine living a life like that. No. It's just impossible.
Not pictures in Haiti. I had a lot of coworkers younger than me who were limping from the effect of polio, and we would go up in the mountains, and PT would be working with kids who really had something very similar. And we had been polio free since shortly before I went to Haiti, but you would still see a lot of people all twisted up.
Absolutely. I know a few people who have had polio, and I met a woman who actually was born in Trinidad, Tobago, I think, but has lived in Canada she came to Canada when she was about 18 or so, but she had contracted polio as a young child and was put into an orphanage and lived in an orphanage until she was age 12, and then she was able to come to Canada because her father, I gather, emigrated to Canada, and she was allowed to come as well. So she's, I think she's 60 now, but she has one leg which is just totally useless. I mean, she has to be on crutches with a brace or a wheelchair. So that the effects are dreadful.
There's also lasting effects later in life. There was
post-polio syndrome.
Right. There was a Rotarian that was a snowbird visitor to Rotary East. Richard, he was from New Jersey. He was a photographer, a pretty talented photographer. They owned a place. He and his wife owned a place in Sapphire, a condominium, and came down for all winter. Just before I left, he had started to come to Rotaries, showing up with an oxygenator, because his lungs had started to completely deteriorate, and that's the after effects of polio.
Yeah, it's very sad, very sad.
Yeah.
My question to you is, we know who the current Rotary International president is. Do we know who the president-elect is?
We all should have just gotten an email about that.
Yeah, he's Indian.
Yeah,
That's the president nominee.
Wait, the nominee is Indian, and
the nominee is
Indian.
Indian.
Nominee is.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm blank.
That's the one you don't know, but you're going to hear him speak right now. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I will share my screen again.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après midi à tous. You like my French? War Eagle. This has been a very special convention for me, since Toronto was the home city of my mother during her high school years. As a teenager here, she was a radio actress on the CBC. Isn't she pretty? I have her to thank for my booming radio voice. So, have you enjoyed the convention? Do you feel inspired to go out and make a difference? I think that you all agree with me that as much as we have been inspired by the speakers, the presentations, and everything we have seen on this stage this week, what happened off the stage inspired us even more. Because what we really come to the convention for is the chance to live and experience here that the world of Rotary that is usually out there. The Rotary that lets us connect in a way that is simply not possible anywhere else. That lets you sit down next to a total stranger from the other side of the globe and call them by their first name. And in Rotary, not only can you do that, not only can you make these remarkable connections with such incredible ease, you can use those connections to change the world. Only in Rotary. And now our time together in Toronto, or is it Toronto, is almost at an end. On this last day of our convention, we are looking ahead, not only toward Hamburg and even Honolulu, but toward what will be next for our organization. We are at a point of transition in Rotary. We are nearing our goal of a polio-free world, and with it, the end of our #1 priority, the task that has driven us for over 30 years. We have major decisions to make, with a new strategic plan, a new council on legislation, and an opportunity to update our areas of focus, all lying ahead. Those decisions will have an impact that will roll on for decades, not only for Rotary, but for the communities we serve. But more than anything else, the success of our service in the future depends upon how successful we are today in adapting our clubs and our organization to today's realities. If we want Rotary to stay vital and relevant, we need people of all ages, not only to serve, but also to lead. We must have clubs and membership models that embrace today's families, today's societies, and today's expectations. How Rotary will change, what it will look like 10, 20, 30 years from now, will be determined by us now. In the words of Paul Harris, the pioneering days of Rotary have only just begun. As Rotarians, we know that if we work together, we can do almost anything we set our minds to. That is true within our organization and beyond it. We could never have come so close to eradicating polio if we had insisted on going it alone. We needed the whole world with us. Partnership made it possible. And partnership is what will allow us to tackle some of our toughest challenges that lie ahead. We need to apply the lessons of polio to our planning by focusing on cooperation, on our special relationship with the United Nations, and on truly sustainable service that will make the world a better place, not just for us, but for everyone and for all generations. And our first partnership for the 2019-2020 year will be with Rotaractors as a select group of Rotaractors joins the governors-elect for the first time in Rotary history at the 2019 Rotary International Assembly. I am humbled and honored to accept the nomination to serve as president for this great organization in the 2019-2020 Rotary year. With the continued support of my wife, Gay, and my family, my Rotary Club, my community, and every one of you, Rotarians, Rotaractors, and the family of Rotary, I look forward to leading our great organization into the next decade and the future that we will all build together. Thank you very much.
So Mark Maloney is our president-elect. Hi, John.
Hi there.
Mr. Maloney is an Irishman from Alabama.
Is he from Alabama? I don't know where he's from.
He's Alabama, Alabama, but I thought he was Irish.
Well, the name certainly sounds Irish, doesn't it?
No, he's Alabama, USA.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyways.
we have some Irish people in the States.
Just a few.
Yeah.
And I'm 14% Irish, according to my.
Yep. But he really didn't sound like a Southern.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm late. I thought I was 15 minutes early.
Oh no. That was I would have sent out a special note that yes, it's going to be changed, but no, it was just a question.
It's all the power's out on St. John and St. Thomas.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh no.
That's not good.
Gee, what a surprise.
Yeah, quel surprise. The newspaper today reported that the government owes the Water and Power Authority $33 million.
Yikes.
Oh man, you might as well be in Haiti. We often don't have power is somebody didn't pay somebody.
Oh.
Well,
In
the
Anguilla,
Virgin
it used to be
Islands,
water.
Absolutely chronic. That they're always back millions, and of course, who makes it up for it? Well, the high price that they sell for the electricity.
We do.
So you get to pay the government taxes, and then they get whopple on the bill, and then you have to pay again, to cover their skipping wobble on the
John,
Yes.
did they disconnect the hospitals also? Because
No.
mostly the bill is the hospital,
The biggest portion of that $33 million is for the two hospitals.
But they can't by law. It's a law that they can't.
I hope so. Yeah.
Anyway, I have one.
Go ahead, Kitty.
I have one very short video that I kind of have to do after these other two. So we'll mute ourselves for a short video. All right.
Mother Teresa once said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Because changing the world starts with changing yourself and working outward from there. We're in Rotary because we want to take action in our communities and around the world. But to change the world, we have to start at home by making the changes we need in our organization to ensure that we will remain both relevant and vibrant for many years to come. To serve our communities well, we need to represent our communities in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, and background. We need to start reaching out to people who might not know about Rotary or might not understand what Rotary membership entails. To do that effectively, we need to work on strengthening our public image through our presence on social media and by holding Rotary Days, free, outward-facing community events that showcase who we are and what we do. Let's show the world how we are people of action. We also need to start working much harder to bring Rotaract closer to Rotary. Today we have 250,000 Rotaractors in about 10,000 clubs. 27% of Rotary clubs have sponsored a Rotaract club. I want to see those numbers double with new Rotaract clubs that are community-based. And I want the natural path out of Rotaract to lead into a Rotary club bringing in the diversity, the energy, and the new ideas that Rotary needs. Work together. Have service projects together. Sponsor a new club if you haven't done it yet. Treat Rotaractors as younger colleagues, not as interns. And show them everything that Rotary has to offer. The opportunities that have shaped each of us in Rotary and helped all of us to be the inspiration.
And that is the final video I have for today. So three speakers. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I just got a
Thank
message
you.
that Zoom cannot hear me. So
Hey, we don't care about Zoom.
as long as you can hear me, that's great. But that was the Rotary, the immediate past Rotary International Rotary Foundation Chair, the president-elect of Rotary International, and the current president. You notice that the emphasis is on Rotaractors, both with Barry and also the following year where they will be included in that International Assembly for the first time. So there's a real push for Rotaractors. It may be that Rotaractors are going to help change the 1.2 million Rotary members throughout the world, and we may see a jump in that number if Rotaractors get involved and stay involved. So that's the goal. So
I think Rotary still has a public relations problem. We don't hear about Rotary.
Exactly.
Well, maybe every couple of weeks.
They don't count the Rotaractors?
Sorry, what was that a question?
Yes, I said they do not count the Rotaract in the 1.2 million?
No, 1.2 million Rotarian.
Rotary. Okay, yeah.
And Rotaractors are separate and Interactors are separate as well. So, yeah. So if Rotaractors are going to be included, and I know there have been Rotaract clubs that I've been aware of, but they have not gone on to Rotary, and that's the problem. And you know, maybe a public image thing. It may be the fact that the Rotary clubs are slow on social media. I don't know, but definitely there is a push now with Barry's year and a push with Mark Maloney's year to involve Rotaractors. So that'll be an interesting change.
Well, it's critical for us to get away from this being Rotary being just a whole bunch of old farts like myself. We need young blood, young ideas, and
absolutely.
But the fact that so many Rotaractors do not go on to Rotary, I don't blame that on Rotaractors. That is clearly the function of the Rotary club that is sponsoring them or thinks they're sponsoring them. And
yeah. They should follow up. Yeah, and keep in touch.
Well, you know, when you think about it, you know, we're launching Rotaractors into the rest of their lives, and that's what happens when they all, you know, graduate from college, and all of a sudden it's a brave new world out there, and they've got to go chew it off.
Yeah.
Have them
but
on Rotary is kind of
Wayne after Dennis. Okay, Wayne.
Yeah,
Wayne, go ahead.
Like I mentioned before, they do a great job with the Rotaractors. Like in Ethiopia, there are, first of all, there are about 1,200, I believe, nationwide Rotaractors, and they're encouraging them. The club that sponsor them, they're involving them in everything. Even when we go to the NID, they're the main ones that go to NID and all that. So what happened was they encouraged them, and they, because of the age difference, They didn't feel that they can go to lunches when they just graduated and so on and so forth. So they helped them create Rotary Club, the Rotaract Rotary Club, actually. So there is, like in Addis, in the capital city, it's a Rotary Club, but it's comprised of all except one gentleman who's from the sponsor club that comes and direct them and help them with few other things. It's a club made out of all the Rotary actors, and as they graduate, they join that club. And eventually they'll outgrow it and have another one and another one. So that's the way to do it.
And so Rotaractors can now be members of a Rotaract club and a Rotary club. So
Before there was a real gap when it was originally designed that Rotaract stopped about 30. Some Rotary clubs still held the old ways that you couldn't join before even 40. And most Rotaractors, when they first got out and were getting established in life, couldn't afford Rotary clubs decided to bring in only the bigwigs of the town.
Oh, yes.
Exactly. Unfortunately, Rotary, it sort of got established that Rotaract didn't have an immediate route into Rotary, and that kind of has been the default of a lot of people ever since.
Yeah. So that's what they did now in Addis. You know, what they did was, first of all, the Rotarians, the sponsoring club, the club that was sponsoring these young people, they helped them. They have it in the evening. It's a reception. They don't have lunch, and it's in one of the hotels owned by the Rotarians. So they give them a huge break, so it doesn't cost them much. And they're also like-minded. They're very young, and they have different interests, different things that they want to do. So they enable them to do that. So that's how it can grow.
So one more comment, and then we're going to close. Dennis.
Just one last thing. I don't know if anybody zoomed in on the feed when Barry was in St. Croix the other day.
It would not work for me. If you're on Firefox, it just would not play.
Well, that's too bad because it really worked, but I've got a comment about that. It is no wonder we're losing Rotaractors because that was boring.
Okay.
Boring. And Barry couldn't even resurrect it. He tried, but the rest of it was really boring.
Boring, yes.
Oh, and isn't that interesting? Well,
one question.
For Mrs.
John,
final.
did you go to St. Thomas, to St. Croix to see?
No, I think it was online, wasn't it?
Just it was online.
But he was in St. Croix.
Barry was there.
Barry was there.
So I asked John if he went to St. Croix.
No, no way. Well, I can tell you how hard it is to do that. I can't even get to St. Thomas these days because we're down to one small barge. And,
okay.
Yeah, so forget that. I'll not go on there, Kitty.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy evening. I'm sorry we messed up on the time, John, for you.
I messed up on the time. Not you. All right.
And I think we're ready to close the meeting with the Rotary four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all
concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Goodwill and better friendship.
And will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And I hope we can live by these moral guidelines.
And
it will be fun.
That everybody understands that you shouldn't wear socks.
Perfect. Love you guys. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, folks.
Okay.